Oh, yeah. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight.
Must be a little conference because you couldn't move to that.
And two ordinances. Are there, what's this in the background too? In the back?
Yeah, they have a copy of the agendas back there.
Okay.
So we're going to do the resolutions as a consent and the two ordinances separate because I didn't know if Beth got her information today or not, so I didn't know if she was going to
Well, she's not going to take what she wants. She called me. I said, do you want to table this? Just get it over with.
go for first reading and then she can get her answers between first and second.
Yeah.
But we're going to do them, vote on them separate.
Okay.
What time you got?
And do the minutes, the minutes go
Minutes are
with
with
the consent?
the consent.
All right.
I got my new
1 minute. 559.
reading. That's what I have. 1 minute. Who's that? We didn't have.
James Ross in Ross Street where I live.
Okay.
They donated a portrait, descendants from the Miner family, like in Miners Mill.
Right.
It's 1842 portraits. It's for the Butler House. It's in the Butler House.
Excellent.
But I thought I'd use them as my screensaver.
Cool. Yeah.
The street I live on. This is James Ross, like in Ross. I'm sorry, William Ross, like in Ross Street.
There's Sam.
Fill him out.
He might be speaking on pending. Be here by 6. You got it?
Nobody wants to. 06. Damn.
Not too bad.
The elevator should have broke down. Oh, gosh.
Okay, thanks.
It just doesn't seem to keep the right time, but
No.
it's just so old. I don't
Okay.
think it always seems to lose a second.
All rise. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty and everlasting God resides over all things in heaven and earth. Come and preside over these deliberations so that those that make the decisions may be guided by your wisdom.
Thanks. Thanks, Mike. Welcome to the June 17th regular session of Wilkes-Barre City Council. We have 8 items on our agenda and 2 ordinances that we will discuss. Tuesdays prior to Thursday's meetings are work sessions where we work out the items that are on the agenda and have discussions. At this meeting, you'll have an opportunity to talk on the pending legislation and then public comments afterwards. Ms. Payne, could you roll call?
Mr. Barrett?
Here.
Mr. Belishko?
Here.
Mr. Marconi?
Here.
Mrs. Gilbert McBride?
Present.
Mr. Brooks?
Here.
Also in attendance is Mayor George Brown, Administrator Charles McCormick, City Attorney Tim Henry, Administrative Assistant Lisa Sanfilippo, and Assistant City Clerk Tracy Smith. Good evening and welcome to tonight's regular session of City Council. Please turn off all cell phones. The following are examples of some important council rules. They are not intended to be a complete list. Adhere as closely as possible to the 5-minute speaker presentation time limit. All remarks shall be addressed to the council and not to any individual member. No persons are allowed to address the council from beyond the rail except the speaker at the dais who has the floor. The chairperson shall preserve order and decorum and prevent attacks on personalities. The chairperson shall determine all points of order. No person except city officers or the representatives shall be permitted within the rail during any meeting without the express permission of council. And finally, in order to be heard by all in attendance, as well as to be picked up by the microphones, when members of administration are speaking, please stand up and speak into the microphone.
Okay, so at this time, if you have any comments on pending legislation, and that legislation, the agenda is on the back wall there. That has the list of the items that we are voting on tonight. Does anyone have any comments on the pending legislation? Yes, Mr. Troy.
Nice to be back in person. On the consent agenda here, first of all, the purchase of the loader, wheel loader, item, it's the third item there, under the STARS program from Medico Industries. Was that put out for bid? Was there, or was that just a, considered a, was that just an arbitrary decision? I don't know if anybody knows that.
That's right, that's through the CoStar program, so it's,
What's
So
that?
under CoStars, the state does the bidding, and then once you're a part of the CoStars program, any municipality in Pennsylvania can, purchase off of CoStars without having to bid.
So the state funds the co-stars.
The state does the bidding, and they
so the
oversee
state-
CoStars.
State did the bidding on it.
Yes,
That's the way it always works on the co-stars, right?
yeah, they're approved vendors that we can use without having to go through the bid process.
Because I just wondered how Medico got the business. I don't have anything against them, but the rescue plan Act of 2021, that's the COVID-19 relief program? Is that what that is?
that's correct. Yes.
So there's a lot of money in there. That's not including the 38 million that the city's getting, is it? Or 31 million, whatever it was.
It's 37 million, but coming in two checks.
What's that?
37 million coming in two different checks. We get the first one yet? And then the next one comes 2 years from now?
But
So
this is out of the
6 months.
31 million, right?
Correct, and we have 3 years?
37.
37.
37.1.
Right.
Regarding the two ordinances, look, I'm always happy as a taxpayer and a member of the public who's been speaking out and trying to hold public officials accountable for about the last 15 years, when fees are reduced. So I think it's a good thing the mayor wants to reduce the garbage fees and certainly the parking meters, which was initiated, the increase was initiated under the previous administration. And I thought it was a really harsh increase, especially, and I guess now people have seen the light here, and people in the administration, that is, that it would behoove the city to reduce the parking meters. I think, regarding the parking meters, just quickly, I think it could be taken, if possible, if it's somehow viable to exempt senior citizens and people on low incomes at all from paying meters. I think that would help, and it would induce more business. I don't know if that's feasible, but maybe give them some kind of pass they could put in their window. Because as it stands now, I mean, it's still going to be, it's still going to be a hardship for some people, and they want to come downtown. I mean, right now, it's ridiculous, even more expensive than the city of Scranton. I don't know if that could be worked out, but I think that's something that the administration wants to consider. Just in the remaining time, in the garbage and refuse, the blue bag reduction. Again, I welcome a reduction in fees as a taxpayer, to ease financial hardship for people. But by the same token, what is this going to accomplish? It's going to help people's financial situation, maybe. But is it going to help solve the bigger picture here, I think, is what you've got to consider, is a solid waste management or mismanagement. Is it possible that the city could consider, I know this might sound a little bit outrageous, but compostable garbage bags? We have, I mean, from an environmental and an economic standpoint also, we have a pretty serious crisis. I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but there's only one landfill left in this area, correct? That's the one in Dunmore? I believe that's the only one. Right, Charlie? Oh, Charlie. Maybe you don't know that. Well, see, I mean, so garbage bags are now cheaper. Maybe that means people will be throwing more garbage away, more refuse away. Of that same token, maybe there'll be less illegal dumping. I don't know. But the overall picture is, I don't know if it's helping to solve the solid waste problem. I think if the city could consider maybe at least having compostable bags as an option, or perhaps going back to the way it was. I don't know how feasible this is, but you remember when during the McGrory administration, back in the 90s, maybe some of you are too young to remember that, the city never used garbage bags. I believe, and before that as well. And garbage bags are a recent innovation, right? Now, I don't know if it's feasible to not use garbage bags. But maybe that would be one way to, those garbage bags take up a lot of space, and they're not composable. They're, plastic does not, does not compose, it does, stay in the landfill for God knows how long. So I just wondered if there would be any consideration of the overall effects of this lowering of the garbage fee. I mean, again, I'm happy that people will have less of a financial burden, but by the same token, I don't know if it helps the overall picture of solid waste management. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Troy. Anyone else have comments on pending legislation?
She's got other stuff on there.
Angel Mathis, South Franklin Street, Wilkes-Barre. It's good to be back. It's really good to be back. But I urge you to pass the ordinance with the garbage and refuse because one, there is an issue with trash everywhere, and a lot of times it's the issue that, I've been unemployed due to COVID, and I can't afford to buy bags. And that brings the bags a little more affordable for those who are on fixed income or low income. And I just ask that you pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on pending legislation? Yes, Mr. Burden.
Jim Burden, Wilkes-Barre. Okay, everybody's bringing up about the garbage. Okay, I'm all for lowering the garbage bags. Now, myself, as living in Wilkes-Barre, all my life, we had up on Sherman Street the incinerator up there. Is there any way feasible that we could bring back an incinerator back into the town and have a water purification system hooked up to it to filter out the smoke? Now they're doing it in other parts of the country instead of putting everything into a landfill. Use some of the $38 million into something like that, Mayor. Look into it and see if we can get that instead of taking our sewage, or taking all our waste, all our garbage up to the landfill. Bring back an incinerator. You were here back in the 70s and the 80s when we had it. Tony, you were here, right? Bill, you were here. We had the incinerator. It worked just fine. I mean, this way here, the city can be self-efficient by putting an incinerator back in. They had it downtown. They used to heat the streets with it. Remember that?
Up in East End somewhere.
Yeah, it was right over by right behind Malakari's, right by my brother's place, right over there. Okay, we had it there. And they also had the steam heat that ran off of it, in the wintertime. So there is ways, that we don't have to depend on Dunmore for taking our trash up there and the price of the bags, Even if we did keep the price of the bags, just for a little while. And then maybe once a year, have them like we used to have, a pickup around for furniture, used furniture, instead of taking it up to Laurel Run and throwing it up in the stripping holes like people are doing up along Wilkes-Barre. You go up there, you see furniture up there. My nephew lives up in Laurel Run. He says every day he's coming down the mountain, he's finding furniture up and down Wilkes-Barre. I mean, people living down here are finding places to throw their furniture because what? They don't have a place to have it. Or maybe twice a year, we sell a ticket for you to put out furniture. Say it's $10 that you can put out a couch, a chair, or whatever. All right? You sell a ticket, you can put out a piece of furniture, right? And then the city comes by, you call them up, and you tell them, okay, I used my ticket, and then the city comes by and they pick up the furniture. That would work too. It cuts down on the litter going into different parts of the city. That would be my, recommendations, I mean, if you're just looking at little things like that, it cuts down on all the trash, all the illegal dumping, so. Anybody have any comments on it?
Tony, can I answer?
Sir, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Hi, Jim. Welcome back. Couple things.
For a little while, I'm leaving again.
No, we need you here. Jim, a couple of things that you brought up, I want to clarify for you. Can you hear me okay without the? Yeah. Okay. You can't hear me, don't you? The emergency recovery plan, that American recovery plan that we're using, it has very strict stipulations what it can be used for. It can't be used for the item that you talked about. It's for recovery.
Okay.
And what we are doing, just so you know, we announced this on Tuesday, we're setting up several plans to help the people of the city of Wilkes-Barre, the residents. One of the things we're going to do, Jim, is we're going to, and I announced this last Friday, we're going to have a white goods pickup. We're going to be able to pick up refrigerators, washers, dryers, those type things. We're going to bring that back. We're also going to have a disposal of electronics, TVs, those type things. We're going to have a shredding for city residents. So we're looking at doing some of the things that you just talked about. We're going to be working on that over the next several months. And we'll have some information coming out for the residents. So we're doing that, but also the money that we're getting, $37.1 million, is going to go into things like rebuilding the sewers. Sewers in this city are 100 years old. We're going to rebuild a lot of the sewers. All 5 districts, we're going to identify sewers that have to be repaired. We're going to create a plan where people that were residents that were adversely affected by the COVID virus will get a stimulus check. You're going to get a cash check in the city. Also, people that want to say, you'll get it. People that want to buy a home. Say there's a person that rents a home on Minor Street, right, Angel? And you want to buy that home. We're going to set up a program to help you with a down payment for your primary residence. We're going to create a program to give you funds for the primary residence. If you have a home, primary residence, and you want to do some alterations, renovations to the home, not just the outside like the old facade, inside, we're going to help you with some matching funds for that. Okay, so we're looking at how is it going to benefit the residents of the city of Wilkes-Barre, and that's how we're going to use this money.
Right. I had brought that up, oh God, years ago, about the kids that graduated from Myers Coughlin, Bishop Hoban, wherever, that lived in the valley, lived in Wilkes-Barre, right? To keep them in Wilkes-Barre, that the houses that, were for sale, to sell them to these kids. This way we keep them in the city.
And that way we'll be able to help with money towards their down payment.
Right.
We're going to do that. So I think you're going to see as we get more and more into this and we give you more information about it. We announced this on Tuesday, but everything that we're doing, we're trying to benefit the residents of the city of Wilkes-Barre that have been adversely affected by the COVID.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Anyone else on pending legislation? Mr. Giroux?
Angel Giroux, 47 Minor Street. I want to thank the mayor. Any money that is saved for any senior citizens and disabled veterans such as myself, that saving money, that garbage bag is medication I can now get. I've received more positive phone calls, Mayor, because that initiative also get a home. I've had more phone calls on that. Again, I think when you give people the opportunity to get homes, you have more people responsible for their neighborhoods, they take care of it. Those who tend to not be positive will now be more positive. I have more phone calls on this, Mayor, than before. I hope we can work together on this.
Mr. Giroux.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Pending legislation.
Yes.
Come back, no, come back on your public comment.
Okay, but thank you for the garbage bags, everything. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay, we'll move into Mr. Williams. How are you, Mr. Williams?
Hi, Gordon Williams, 58 West River Street. I don't really have any comments as a senior citizen until I become a senior citizen. So, but, and I don't have any comments on the garbage bags. I think that's fine. But I do want to say about the parking meters that you may remember that I was very much against raising the fees to $2. And I think it's proved out that it was a mistake. Well-meaning than it might have been. Everybody thought it was a good thing to do, but it was a lot of money. It is a lot of money. So I think probably the consensus that you have is that you're going to go along with dropping it to $1, but I would hope you will, because it's a negative. $2 is a negative. First of all, it's a negative amount, but it's a bad image for the city. And you keep hearing it more and more and more. So people are actually surprised to hear that it's $2. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll move into voting on the legislation.
Okay, we have the consent agenda resolutions, and include the minutes. Need a motion and a second.
I'll motion.
Mr. Belishko?
Second.
Second, Mr. Barrett. Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. Belishko?
Yes.
Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Mrs. McBride?
Yes.
Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Okay. And we have two ordinances. First is file of council number 11, an ordinance amending chapter 29 of the Wilkes-Barre City Code of Ordinances entitled Traffic and Motor Vehicles, which is the parking tickets, for first reading. We need a motion and a second.
Motion?
Mr. Barrett?
Second.
Second, Mr. Marconi. Roll call, Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. Belishko?
Yes.
Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilbert McBride?
Yes.
And Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
And the second ordinance is file of council number 12 of 2021, an ordinance amending chapter 12 of the Wilkes-Barre City Code of Ordinances entitled Garbage and Refuge, which is the blue garbage bag fees, and that is also first reading. Motion and a second.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Marconi,
Second.
second by Mr. Barrett. Mr. Barrett?
Yes.
Mr. Belishko?
Yes.
Mr. Marconi?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilbert McBride?
Yes.
And Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
And that's all the business.
Thank you. Now presentations by council members. Councilman
I'm gonna have to do that.
Barrett?
Yeah, I've just brought this up before about parking meters. I'm thrilled we're lowering the fees, but I think we need to move into the modern era and come up with something, an alternative method of payment, whether it's a kiosk in each block or something like other municipalities have. I don't carry around a pocket full of quarters. I don't suspect many people do. And I think that it's proven that these kiosks work well, they're convenience for people that are parking. And they also, to be quite candid, people tend to overpay in them. They don't take a chance as compared to, well, I only have 3/4 or 4/4, they're going to take a chance and underpay. So, I mean, they've been proven that they do work. I find them very convenient when I do have an opportunity to use them in different places. And I know that we've talked about looking into it. Maybe now's the time to further look into that. And especially, let's try it in a couple of downtown areas right around the public square, maybe a block in either direction, one kiosk in each block. I think would be something that would work well. And you could, if you still want to use the meters and put quarters in it, you could still do that as well. Just an alternative method of paying. I know we have Pango and some other things, apps, but I think people are a little bit reluctant to do that. I like to be able to put a card right in a kiosk, and it's done. You don't need an app, and your credit card information is not going to some third party someplace else. And the city would have some control over that. So I think it's just something that we should be researching if we're not already, and move forward in that direction. Other thing, Laurel Run Creek, I know we're doing studies and engineering studies and infrastructure studies. There's a home, and I meant to mention it to Butch on Tuesday, that is literally the house foundation that butts the creek wall, right at the intersection of Scott Street and Laurel Run Creek. We asked Butch to reach out to that resident there. He keeps reaching out to me, and I looked at the wall myself, and there's trees growing out of it, and actually growing out and affecting his foundation on his home. So if you could reach out to him and give him a status update on where we are with Laurel Run Creek, that'd be great. If he needs the information on the person, I can give it to him. That's all that I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councilman Belishko.
Lisa's going to be handing out these council members and the mayor. This is a report that I request every now and again from the Wyoming Valley Sanitary Authority on the streets that were swept, catch basins that were cleaned, and the catch basins that were replaced It's quite extensive. It's throughout the whole city, and it's been for, I think, since March, since the last time I asked for that report. And now this is March moving forward. So if any council member has a storm basin that they need cleaned or replaced, you could contact me or Butch, and we'll get the sanitary authority right on it. Okay, thanks. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilman Marconi?
Yeah, I do. I have a few. Mike, thanks for this. This is great information. Much appreciated. I do have several questions for administration. The LCTA project, the Sterling Hotel project, I was just wondering if any of the permits were being pulled, or if there's any movement on that as of yet.
Present status in both is the same as it was. The Sterling project is anticipated to pull basic permits. If you saw, there's some activity going on. They're still doing some ground soil surface testing. They anticipate to break ground in August. We're starting in September. The LCTA project, if you've seen it or activity, they also had a number of soil issues and some digging issues that to conform with historical information. That has been completed, and my understanding is they're going to be moving ahead in the early summer, which I assume is going to be post-July 4th. Both of these projects, however, in the Sphere project, are heavily affected by the lack of availability of building materials, especially the larger buildings, steel availability, etc. So when you'll see major construction, we're hoping later on in the year, but it's a question of supply and costs rather than the project itself.
All right, thank you. Also, I've had several residents ask me what projects the money from the American Recovery Act will be happening. You know any of that stuff yet, or is it still too early?
Are you talking about the programs we announced, John?
Yeah, I think they're looking maybe, I don't want to say more specific, but again, you know, people are just asking me what exactly will this money be used for? I said I'll ask the question.
Do you mind if I go through them again?
Absolutely.
Is that okay, Jim?
Yep, absolutely.
All right, why don't I read through them again? We're going to establish a household stimulus fund for cash payments to households that have been adversely affected by the pandemic. Maximum amount, guidelines, and application will be administered by a social service agency to be appointed by the administration. What we mean by that is my administration will not be administering it. We're going to work with a social service agency and have them do that. Secondly, we're going to establish an owner-occupied home improvement monetary fund to assist city homeowners to improve affordable housing. Establish a home purchase fund for owner-occupied real estate purchases to provide down payments to assist city residents in improving and expanding housing opportunities. We're going to establish a fund to assist nonprofit agencies in providing essential services to city residents affected adversely by the pandemic. This fund will also be administered by a social agency. It won't be administered by my administration, but we're going to have a third party that will take responsibility for that. And Angel, these are some of the things that you and I talked about over the years, helping those in need. Establish a business advancement fund to assist in establishing new businesses in the city during the post-pandemic. We're also going to be doing a sewer infrastructure projects in all 5 districts. Also, stormwater infrastructure projects to be identified and addressed by the city. And some of the examples are what we had listed today. There are three projects: Mill Creek, Laurel Run Creek, Solomon Creek. We're going to be doing engineering studies to see how we can help mitigate flooding possibilities there. Laurel Run Creek, you voted on tonight. We're going to do immediate repairs on that. And what that's going to happen, that's actually falling into the creek right now, pieces of that wall. So we're going to start that bill very, very shortly. We have to get the second vote on it. Once we get the second vote, we'll give the contractor the okay to go forward. So this is what we're going to be using, Mr. Marconi, right now, part of the funds for. A big part will be sewer, repairing sewers in all 5 districts.
Okay, thank you so much. And then finally, I'm looking ahead here a little bit. I was wondering if the budget for 2022, if it would be ready by mid-September this year, if that's possible. Just think about it. Yeah, I don't expect an answer, but...
But don't forget the budget, we have to create it from the prior year's numbers. If we don't have the final numbers in, it's very hard to estimate the cost. We can look at where we're at on that.
Okay, yeah, that's...
But also, I want to thank you last night for attending the meeting with the people in the West Chestnut Street area and working with us and looking at resolutions, so thank you for that.
Absolutely, thank you for coming to that meeting as well. It was very, very productive. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Councilwoman McBride.
I think that everything the mayor is presenting for the to be used by the funds from the American Recovery Act are really great programs, and I'm happy that we voted in favor of reducing the blue bag fees tonight and the parking meter costs. I do wish that this wasn't sprung on us and that we had a little bit more time to collect some relevant data. I am concerned about the possible loss of revenue over the next few years. But again, I voted in favor of it because I know that it'll help the residents out. Personally, I would have liked to see more of an income-based program. I don't think it's fair that all of us also had our blue bag cost reduced. We could easily afford blue bags. I would have liked to see it more income-based. For example, go to City Hall, fill out an application to see if you qualify, and then come to City Hall to purchase your blue bags if you do qualify. So that's just my 2 cents, and I think that it would be a little bit more equitable for everyone. But I'm hoping that this works out.
Good. Thank you. I think that's an excellent idea about income-based, means-tested.
Thank you.
That could go to Mr. Troy's point about having more affordable for the bags. I want to echo, in my presentation, I want to echo Councilman Barrett's remarks about the meters, and I think the need for the city and the parking authority to work in tandem to be very flexible as market changes. So obviously our market changed. We have a decline in economic activity in the downtown, and it makes sense to reduce them. But I do think we should look into the latest technology and what I would also call a flexible pricing plan. So for example, it makes sense that Public Square could be $1, but yet West River Street, where Gordon Williams lives, those meters are never used, but maybe they're just $0.25 in use. So it's like a zone flexible plan. And I also think we really need to work with the parking authority to study the economics and I guess it's the social and psychology behind why the higher fees were proposed by the Diamond City Partnership. We have it backwards in Wilkes-Barre. The garages are cheaper, they're supposed to be cheaper, so you push people into garages and off the street, and that was the theory behind it. So I think we should work with the parking authority and continue to look into that and adapt our technology with a flexible pricing plan. And then all 5 of us on council got an email from a woman asking about, is there anything we could do about the lack of quality of the blue bags? She says that they're kind of thin, hard to open up. And I have a hard time opening them up, and I imagine if you have, I got a little arthritis in my one finger here. It's really getting harder as you get older. So maybe that's something we can look into, different quality of the bags as well. Okay, now we have, pardon? Now we have public presentations. Mr. Burden.
Jim Burden, 58 Taft Street, Wilkes-Barre. Okay, Tony,
Yes,
easy
sir.
way to open the bags? With your 2 fingers, and they come right apart. Okay. There's your answer to your bags. Okay? Easy fix. Okay.
Oh, man.
Put that in the newspapers, so we all know.
Man, you're killing me, man.
I told you. Now, East Northampton and Park Ave. There's an artesian well right smack in the middle of the street. By the winter time, could you have the water company or whoever take care of that? Because, hey, I don't work there anymore on that corner, but the person that does, they slip, they fall, it's all ice. Okay, so you got plenty of time between now and October, November to take care of that. Okay, and going back to the parking meters, even when I come downtown and I have disabled vet plates on my car, okay, and on my truck, and I try to find a place to park downtown, you can't find a place, okay, there's only 1 or 2 spots for disabled vets or handicapped person, okay? And like Bill, you said about the parking, okay? Down in South Carolina, down in Myrtle Beach, you go into any parkade down there and you have disabled vets plates on your car or handicap. You go into the parkade, and when you're leaving, they shoot your license plate and the gate opens up because you're handicapped or disabled. Now, in our situation here, if you show your Pennsylvania ID, they should read it and say, okay, handicap, boom, boom, you're gone. No charge, okay? So you can do that here with the parking machine that, he's saying. So there's ways to get around it. You got to give the veteran or the handicapped person more parking or more ways to park in the city, especially downtown. I mean, you go into Boscov's parking lot, you go in, you buy something, you come out, you have a stamp, you go. They don't charge you. I mean, but you have to go in there and buy something, or you got 2 hours of free parking. So, but that doesn't get you going around downtown to any other place that you want to go. If you want to go eat, you park down here. So, but that's all I have to say, on it, So let's look into something like that to give your disabled veterans, give your veterans someplace to park, give your senior citizens a place to park without, penalizing them too much. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burden. Angel Mathis?
Angel Mathis, Wilkes-Barre. I have quite a few things. I haven't been here for a while. I haven't been online for a while. So I'm going to make it as brief as I can. The first issue on my list is driving under influence. Because although we know along the way it was a push to decriminalize marijuana. But the problem that I have is now people think that decriminalize mean legal. So they're driving around smoking marijuana in their car, which is a problem because it's like even walking. Someone drives by, they smell like weed. And so, can something be done to monitor for that? The second thing, which everyone knows I have a big pet peeve about, is bikes on the sidewalk. So we're going from GAM, I won't say what it means, but you'll get it, and GAWs who ride their bikes on the sidewalk. Fine, but now they're not only riding their bike on the sidewalk, they're riding electric bikes and they're riding bikes with motors on the sidewalk going as fast as cars, which is very dangerous. And the thing about it is, with those, anyone who has a driver's license know that in the state of Pennsylvania, that the legal place for anyone over the age of 16 to ride their bike, whether it's motorized, electric, or manual powered, is in the street. The third thing I have is I woke up to a cat in my apartment because the stray cats are coming back. I fixed my screen, but the fact that I live on the second and third floor, I had a stray cat come through my third floor and wind up on my second floor, come through the third floor window and wind up on the second floor of my apartment. And I'm definitely allergic to cats. So if that's happening now, and it's not really all that much of a heat wave other than the one we had a few weeks ago, just imagine how bad it's going to be when it really gets hot. The fourth thing I have is rent control, because after this whole thing with, my residence for so many years being sold, I moved twice. And, after being in one place for 13 years, I didn't realize how much the rent has gone up and wages have not. So to actually find a habitable place in the city is very difficult for what they're asking. At one point, when I moved from North Main to Beaumont, literally where I was, it's like a ghetto there. And when I say ghetto, I'm not talking about city scudder homes. I'm talking about people and houses piled on top of people, where you're paying anywhere from $750 to almost $1,000 for these places that are very just not inhabitable. So I would like to see at least some type of answer or someone look into rent control. And the last thing that I have that's on my list is teen harassment. There are a group of teens harassing people in the square, where when people go by, they call them names, they curse at them, and they're young, but no one has a right to make anyone feel bad about themselves just for walking past someone in the square. So can something be done about that? And Bill, with the kiosk that you were talking about, I don't know if you remember, but years ago, me and Monique, we actually blooded up that a kiosk be purchased. We still have that research if you're willing to look at it.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's it.
So driving under the influence, whether it's marijuana or alcohol,
Is illegal.
And the cops can, certainly pull them over. Bikes, particularly bikes with motors on them, are illegal on the sidewalks, and they certainly could be fined and arrested for that. Cats, stray cats, we have a new partnership with the SPCA that will handle stray cats. And as far as rent control, I don't know if we have any jurisdiction to do something like that, or if it's a state thing. Would you?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head either, but,
Okay.
I do know that the houses she's talking about are, owned by private persons who are free to charge, whatever rent they would, and obviously the market drives the rental prices.
Right.
But as far as rent control, I don't know enough about it to comment.
And the ones that you say that are inhabitable, please let us know those addresses, because they're supposed to be inspected on a regular.
Oh, they're inspected, but they'll clean it up for the inspection, and then it's like you have water running down the walls, that you have electricity.
And teen harassment on Public Square, we do have, during the day, we do have a beat cop that is on Public Square as well, so. I'm sorry, were you being harassed?
No, I wasn't. It's just that, everyone knows my mother's at the senior center.
Right.
And it's like sometimes you hear them in the center
Yeah,
as loud as they are.
yeah. Another thing that concerns me is the loudness of music of people's cars, like blaring beyond belief, too. And I don't know what we do about that, other than a cop hears it and goes after them for that. Thank you, Angel.
Thank you.
I just have one
Yes.
comment.
Any comment?
Regarding rent control, there is a national organization that's working with municipalities to see what municipalities could do regarding rent control and affordable housing. I actually have a call with them coming up soon, in the next week or so, to discuss it. So as soon as I hear back, I'll update everyone, for sure.
Thank you. Any other comments? Another Angel, Angel Giroux.
Now can I finish what I said?
Yes, you can finish now.
Angel Giroux, 47 Minor Street, founder and executive director of South Spanish American Leaders Serving All. As I was saying, I want to thank the mayor for the initiative. Yeah, before you ran for mayor, we discussed this many times, how vital it is for people to own their property. A perfect example is this, and Councilman Tony Brooks can attest to this. Some people in the community took upon themselves to get their money together, form a 501, and open a church that was closed down, and now they own the church, and now they're responsible people in the community. Not only that, they now form in their little community a crime watch in a Spanish church. Again, this is historical. Why? Because they own that piece of property now. Okay, that's how important it is. But I do caution the mayor, when you have these programs, understand many people that I represent have trouble following what buying a home is. So I hope you have somewhere in that money to educate people what it is to own a home, responsibility, the cost. I'm gonna make sure they're not stepping into situations that's gonna backfire on these people. So I hope all precautions taken that they're safeguarded on this. Number two, I'm gonna make this clear. Many people keep coming up to me that I have trouble with the police when I opened the discussion many years ago about the police, Civilian Police Review Commission. I met with Chief of Police, I can tell you this, no one has done more for the issue of diversity, cultural training than the chief. What happened to be a 15-minute meeting stood over an hour. Not only I got to meet the Chief of Police, I got to meet a father, a coach, an educator. I'm not saying this because we have lovey-dovey with the police, but I respect what they do. And I was taken back how the extreme measures they've taken for their training. They've gone beyond the scope. Also, I want to thank you for having more women and people who speak Spanish. That speaks volumes of community. That says we're working together. I can tell you, and I've been coming to City Council, the person who tested this bill bad for over 20 years, the word issue and cultural diversity has been on my tongue, and I think this is the way to do it. Home ownership is very important, but make sure these people are well educated what they're getting into. And again, the money that's being saved up, the trash bags and anything else, I know we talk about many times infrastructure, please. Give a lot of more money to drug enforcement. As I spoke to the Chief of Police, and we both agree, the troubles are not going away, but we need to have more continued training and more outreach community. As the Chief acknowledged, not all police officers are all the way dedicated, meaning not every officer is going to step out and shake those hands. Others are 9 to 5, go home. Those are the officers I want to reach. Those who just think 9 to 5, that's it. No, I want them, every officer, to go out and shake a hand. But it's not mandated. It's up to them. And also I think initiatives should be made for those officers who do live in town, get some kind of bonus, because it's very important to have police officers live in town. Every city you go to, it is a proven fact, the more the police officers live in town, crime goes down. But understand this, I also understand the other side. When a police officer's wife came to me and says, you know, Mr. Rowe, that's a good idea, but imagine this. My husband did that one time. My neighbors didn't stop calling me, harassing my kids in the street, your dad's a cop, do this. I'm the wife. So again, understand this. When you ask police officers to live in the community, you're asking a great deal too. They're also putting their lives in danger because now the bad guys know where they live. But again, some incentive has to be given for those who do live in town, because it's proven when you have police officers live in town, the neighborhood feels safe. They're part of the community. So again, I want to commend the mayor for what you've been doing. Keep doing a good job. And I hope we continue supporting our police. And many times, and again, I've said to City Council, everyone too, sometimes you allow too many people to come in front of you and say things about you, the mayor, and our police. Make them held responsible. Many times people come in here and use the race card, their faith card, and any other card. And sometimes you're allowed to get away with that because you feel you're going to ruffle feathers. Your job is to ruffle feathers. Your job is to question those who come to you and say, this is not being done right. Ask them, what have you done lately? I was amazed when the Chief of Police told me how committed they are and how many organizations they continue calling and no phone calls are returned. And these are the most respectable organizations who come forward to you and complain about the police. Do your homework, ladies and gentlemen. Don't allow this to continue. Make those who come in front of you and say the community leaders, be responsible as though they hold you to high standards too. Too often you let people get away with that. Stop it, please. Again, thank you for the work you've been doing, Mayor. Anything we can help. Also, please reach out to me. I've contacted several people and organizations that are willing now to help people in the community buying their own home. So please, let's set up a date so we can address this. It's much needed. Thank you.
Tony?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Angel, thank you. Just want to update a couple of things for people like yourself, Angel, that's concerned. As you know, we hired 8 new police officers recently. 4 police officers are at the police academy. The other 4 are doing ride-alongs with current police officers. The officer behind you does a wonderful job and an excellent job, and I'm happy to say that, you know, I support her. But also, I feel we have the best police department in the state of Pennsylvania. And what we've done is, as you know, we've created 5 police substations throughout the city. Those substations have contributed to drug busts, to multiple arrests, to citations and other things because it's community policing. Those folks are walking the neighborhoods, and we've gotten phone calls. So what we're going to do now, when these 4 new police officers complete their training and the 4 graduate from the police academy, you'll be seeing more and more activity in the police substations. So it's a good thing it's community policing. It's something you and I talked about years ago, Angel, but it's going to be more of a presence in the neighborhoods of cops walking the beat and walking the community. So I think that's going to be a big help too, because they go up to you and they shake your hand and they say, I'm Officer Brown, and do you have any problems? So that's something I think is going to be a win for us. So once we get fully complemented. Right, police officer? Am I correct?
Yes, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen Oliva?
Good evening. My name is Maureen Oliva, and I reside in South Wilkes-Barre on New Mallory Place. I'm here this evening on behalf of myself and a few of my neighbors that reside on Riverside Drive who were not able to come to tonight's meeting. Okay, so the reason why I'm here has to do with the ordinances, specifically the noise ordinance. So I must say that our quality of life is in the toilet. We have a neighbor who insists upon leaving her music up loud, leaving the volume up loud, all times of day, all times of night. I have spoken to her and admonished her. I have spoken to her landlord. I have sent videos. I have called the police department, and they have come out and they have told them to lower the music, and that's all fine and great. It lasts for a half an hour, the party's back on. This has been going on even before pandemic's time. So really honestly, I'm just done. I don't know what else to do. But I do know that the coup de grace was last weekend. So after driving, I was down south for hours. I came home, and this tenant is blasting her music on the street for a half hour. The police did respond. And the officer told me, you know, you're not the only one in this town that's having this problem. Okay, so let's add some more salt to the wound. So the next day she has a party, and she's blasting the music again. Now, I'm not the only one that's annoyed. My neighbor texted me and said, I'm going to call the police because we've been listening to it for 2 hours. Well, the policeman came. I was not there. I had to be away when he showed up. But what I was told was his comment was, oh, it's just a child's birthday party. Well, that damn birthday party went on until 3 o'clock in the morning. And so I'm just spent. Look, I'm sure you could tell by my accent that I didn't come from here. And where I came from, we all lived in apartments, maybe 6, 7 families to a floor. We never heard each other's music. So you tell me why, when I'm in a different building, that I have to listen to what's going on next door. So the only thing that I can say is I'd like to know why the ordinance is not enforced. I'd like to know why there's no tickets given and why there's no ramifications or penalizations for disrupting my peace and my neighbor's peace. And so really honestly, I'm holding the city now accountable because I've done everything that I know what to do other than drag the landlord to court, okay? But when I'm speaking to him, he's like, well, it's COVID times and I can't get her evicted and blah, 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 and a million other excuses. But I'm really done with the excuses and I'm done with the dialogue. So at this point, what I'm saying is I want action, and so do my neighbors. And so thank you for your time, but that's the reason why I showed up this evening.
Thank you for coming, Maureen. You know, you absolutely deserve peace and quiet. Everyone in this city deserves peace and quiet to live how they do in their house. I also have a problem with the cars, the music that travels around the city. But do we know if her neighbor's been fined on this?
That's really what it is.
Charlotte,
Is that there's,
you know?
no one gets back to you or tells you anything.
What's the address?
The address I could tell you is 165 New Mallory Place. Okay?
We'll look into it, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Gordon Williams.
I think about, on Gordon Williams, 58 West River Street, I think a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, I spoke to council about the assessment problem, the tax assessment problem. Now, I hear on the radio that Lackawanna County hasn't had a they haven't had a reassessment, that county, since the 60s. That's terrible. Our county had a reassessment in something like 2003. It was certified in something like 2005. There are 75 approximately taxing authorities, municipalities and so forth, school districts and so forth in Luzerne County. Wilkes-Barre City was the only entity that did not go with the new assessment. Now, when you're 1 out of 75, you might not be doing the right thing. Now, if you go to the county, you can find out the taxable properties, the total value of the taxable properties, and the total value of the non-taxable properties. And it's like 50% of the whole city is non-taxable for whatever reason. Now, you take that total, that amount, and you extrapolate a new millage rate from against the taxes that we have to collect. And we can't raise the taxes. If we need like whatever it is, 20 million in property tax, you get a new millage rate based on the taxable properties that the county has, that everybody in this city is paying school tax on and county tax on. Nobody can appeal it. It's way beyond that now. They're already paying based on their assessment that the county had for school tax and county tax. We come up with a new millage for the city. You take your assessment for your house that you have for your school tax, multiply it by the new millage, and that's what your city tax should be. Some people, their taxes are going to go down on their house. Some people, their taxes are going to go up on their house. So what? Fairness is fairness. Now this is way out of control. I had figured out one time what I think that, I have all these numbers, but they're about a year old. I just don't feel that there are those of us, like everybody that's bought a house in the, say, the last 20 years, is subsidizing people that have been here 40 years. It isn't fair, particularly when there was a reassessment done, and those same people are paying taxes for school and county based on the new reassessment. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do about this, but I do know there's precedent around the state, and I have some of it. And I'm getting old, and I'm getting cranky, and I get angry, and I don't want to do that. But this is bad. This is just plain and simple bad. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any comments, questions? We looked into it. I know we looked into a reassessment a few years ago and tested it with properties, and we saw how much they would go up for a certain segment, but we'll see if we can revisit that issue again. Mr. Troy?
Sam Troy, Joseph Lane. A couple of questions for the mayor primarily. First of all, I understand, Mayor, that the loans that were, I thought they were loans to the businesses and restaurants that were hurt by the pandemic, have now been forgiven by you by executive order or whatever. I understand that's the case. Is that correct?
Go give your presentation first.
Well, assuming that is correct, because that's what I read. It's a little disturbing to see that, especially I mean, they may in some way deserve that forgiveness. But by the same token, I don't think it's fair to the public in general. You just pushed through council pushed through a 50% increase in our garbage and recycling fees. That, to me, is an added financial burden, as it is to many of the people in this room and many of the people in the city. So I figure while you're in a forgiving mood, if you're not going to ask these businesses and bars to compensate the city in any way, I assume maybe that's still a possibility. Maybe council could get together and you could put your heads together and brainstorm and maybe approach them and make a concerted effort to get some sort of compensation, assuming, again, this is the case, because those loans have been forgiven. If they aren't, they weren't really loans, I guess, they were grants. And if that's the case, perhaps they could, if they can make a donation to the city, this could be put in some sort of, an idea, a concept that I've been pushing with the school board and the city, is a taxpayer relief fund. Maybe this fund could be started up. And, a lot of people in general in the city of Wilkes-Barre, and I know you're poised to help people by this program that you've come up with for, the money that's coming from the state, the 31 million or whatever it is. And that's a good thing, by helping people to acquire their properties and so forth. But I think it has to go further than that. I don't understand why if these businesses could be let off the hook. And again, I'm not saying they don't deserve it. Maybe they're struggling, and maybe some of them are struggling, but we're struggling too. So the point being that if you're really sincere about forgiveness, maybe you could extend the due date for the recycling and sewer fee, or maybe council and you can get together and somehow lower that burden from $75 back to $50. You wanted $100 originally, remember? I thought that was a little bit of an overkill, and I still think that. I'm just saying it from the perspective of a taxpayer who's struggling like a lot of other people here. Another point that I want to make before I'm called out is, do you people know we have no public high schools in this city after when the school term closes? Not one public high school. We have Bishop Holman, which is, of course, a Catholic school, a private school. The previous administration, and you can say what you want to put them down, at least tried to keep them here, try to keep the district here. I spoke to the school at the recent school board meeting and begged them not to agree to sell Myers. Of course, it didn't do any good. Can that, Mr. Brooks, under that ordinance that you passed, historical preservation, possibly intervene in this situation? That thing is going to be sold and made into a nursing home. This is a cultural icon that is, I'm wondering if the city can't do anything. Mr. Brown, you mentioned, Mayor Brown, several times, you're trying to entice or induce people and businesses to locate here, and that's a wonderful thing. How else is Wilkes-Barre going to grow? But when people want to locate here, families especially, don't they look at the school systems? And what are they going to see? Not one public school. You live in South Wilkes-Barre, you're going to be bussed down from South Wilkes-Barre to Plains now, where it's going to be total chaos. So my point being that I think the city should somehow dig deeply and try to prevent the sale of Myers and try to, as I pointed out at the last school board meeting, the GAR high school is going to be made into a middle school, and the kids, I said the kids there should be able to make the decision. One more thing in the last few seconds I have, and I think that 5 minutes is not fair. It used to be 10 or 15. People have a lot of issues to talk about, and it's hard to do it in 5 minutes. Not only does the city not have one public high school now, but it has no swimming pools. It has a splash pad, which last few years have not been too reliable. But I think with that money you're getting from the state, Mr. Brown, maybe something could be looked at. Maybe you could look into possibly establishing a fund to start to build a pool somewhere for these kids. Maybe this summer still rescue the situation by getting a bus together and having organized trips to the Kingston Pool or wherever. It's going to be a hot summer. Summer officially isn't upon us yet.
Thank you,
I guess my time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Troy. The Historic Preservation Ordinance does not deal with...
Does it deal with Myers?
It's about demolition, so it would only go into effect if they wanted to demolish Myers, but there's nothing we could do to prevent the sale, a private sale, and that is a business that is coming in from a town that has a lot of experience in running assisted living facilities. And we're assured that they are going to preserve the building and the auditorium inside it.
It's going to be a nursing home, Tony. You know that.
Correct, right. I understand that.
Doesn't that degrade the city in any way? I think it does.
Well, and I think, you know, Sam, that at least Beth and I we're very, very vocal on opposing the consolidation of the school, and I'm just as upset as you are that it's not right there, but it happens to be out there right now. Any other comments? Any other comments? Further order? Good. Our next meeting will be, work session is July 13th and a voting session on July 15th. Adjourn.
We did it. Consent agenda, the first one.
I don't think we need it.
I was wondering why these guys are still hanging out here. I'm like, why are they hanging out?